Hi friends, you're welcome to the part 5 of building a REST API using the Golang standard library. In this lesson, we'll look at how we can protect our endpoint, which is the profile endpoint. So we can only allow logged in user to view his or her profile. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's head over to our editor. I'll open my Vim. Let's open the internal folder and we can create another folder called Middleware. Middleware and auth middleware. .go. So let's flesh this out. We need to declare the package, and we can write a function, call it auth middleware. Remember, you want to make it an uppercase function or method, and this is going to take the next. If you are coming from the Node.js background, we have the request object, the response object, and the next function. So this is similar to the next function in Node.js. It's going to have a return type of the http.handler, a.handler, and we return the http.handler func, which takes in our response writer and our request. So this is where we are going to get our auth header. So we write auth header. Can I spell? Because of the request dot header. So let's read about this header. So header contains the request header fields either received by the server or to be sent by the client. So it's going to be in pairs like the key value pair. So select this, and the name of our header will be authorization. Then if auth header equals to empty string, then we can have our error handler here. Dot respond with error, and pass in our writer. Then HTTP as unauthorized and status unauthorized. Then we can do no token provided. And let's bring in our error handler too. Error handler, like so. Next, we need to receive a bearer token and remove the word bearer. So it's going to come in as bearer token. We need to be able to split and remove the word bearer from it. So we can do token string, which equals to the string. We use the string utils. Then trim prefix. Then we can add the auth header here. So the whole bearer token, and we want to trim the bearer like so. So it's more like we want to remove B-E-A-R-E-R, then in the space, making a substring of 7 characters. And we can put in our claims here. Claims will be a reference to the auth dot claims. So let's write it all out, and we go through it line by line. Then the next thing to do is to pass our token, more like verifying our token. We pass the token. Then we have token, and we can have error here. GWT dot pass with claims. Then we can pass in our token string. Pass in our claims. So claims are pieces of information that you want to pass into your token, like your user ID, your row. So you don't want to pass in sensitive information, just the ID is enough, or ID and row. Then this, we have a function, passing token as a parameter, then gwt.token, and we can have the return type, which is going to be an interface. And I said you can also use any. Let's stick to what we've been using since. Then we can open, and let's return a byte. os.getEnv. Then we can pass in a GWT secret underscore key, and for error it's going to be new. Then let's undo the error. If error does not equal to new, we can do the error handler. Error handler dot respond with error. Then we can pass in our writer, http dot status bad request, then you can also pass in invalid token. Then you want to return, of course. And you also want to handle the specific error of invalid signature. So we can put that here. If error equals to gwt dot error, let's look for it. Error signature invalid. Then we can return something like this. Let's copy this, junk it, come here, then paste, remove the space here. Okay, pass signature here, like so. So what do we have here? Let's fix. Okay, this should be a get. Our headers dot get. Let's bring in our OS. And for this, we forgot this. So we are left with just the token because it's not in use at the moment. Just say if token is valid or non valid. Dots. In the token, we can have the valid method. That is the token valid populated when you pass or verify token? So we can have the valid method here. So if token is valid, we can, in our context, we can have our context dot with value. We can attach this. So with value returns a derived context that points to the parent context. In the derived context, the value associated with the key is valid. So with the value returns a derived context that points to the parent context. So it's sort of mapping with the parent context in the overall context that we are using in this project. if that makes sense. So the bit value will take in the parent context, the key, then the value, then returns the context. So we want to have the parent context as our request dot context, like so. Then I'm going to pass in our user claim key, which we are going to create in a moment, key, and pass in our claims. Then R will be equal to R with context, that is our request. Then we can pass in a context here. Then we can call the next dot serve HTTP. Then this one will hold the writer and the request. And if the token is not valid, you can have the else block here. You can do error handler dot respond with error. Then we can pass in our writer, and we can pass in the status code dot status unauthorized. Then you can also say invalid token. Then for this user's claim, we can write a type for it. So our type context key, a string, then const user claims key can be a context key, which will be equal to claims. So let's explain this whole code. I'll just type it out. This creates a custom type for context key. So we want to have a context key to avoid collision. So we want to have a separate context key to avoid collision. Then this constant, we want to use this constant to store our claims. Constant used in storing our claims, storing our user claims. So this author variable retrieves the authorization header from the request. So this way can come via Postman or your web. Like so. This token string strips the bearer token. Now let's write it right. Strips the bearer from the bearer token. This makes sense. So this will remove the word bearer from the bearer token. So this will take in the token and also validate it. So here we provided our key from the environment variable and validate it against the token from the request. And here we want to undo the validation error. So this line will handle if the token is tampered with, that is if you remove a character from the token. So we can do handling likely tampered token. And this handles any other passing error. For example, can have expired, malformed, and so on, like so. And if the token is valid, here, if token is valid, store the claims in the request context. That is, if token is valid, you want to store the claim in the request context. And this one is just like an override, or let's say replace request context with the new one. And this calls the next handler with the updated request. And of course, this else block handles the invalid token if the token is not valid. So I think this is clear enough. You can just read through the comments that I've written here from this line to the end of the line. I hope this makes sense. So this is our auth middleware for protecting any endpoint that we want to access with our token. Now let's flesh out our profile endpoint. So we can go to the user handler. I'll call it user handler.go. Then here we can write profile endpoint, or just call it profile. So putting our func, the handler, then we have the handler here, and let's give it a name, call it user profile. This can be anything, and have a return type of http.handler func. So I can just copy from here and paste. Then we close this bracket. Then let's write our context. Then request.context. Then we want to have our claims. Then okay. Goes to the request.context. If we are passing a token, we overwrote it in the auth middleware that replace it with the login user. So that is what we want to extract here. And it will come in the form of key value. The value, which will be coming from middleware's dot user claims. Then we can have the auth. We want to dereference the auth dot claims. Then if not okay, so it will return the claims data, and if it's okay or not, more like true or false. So if not okay, we want to return, let's return this error. I can copy this, yank it, then come back here, then paste. Then let's remove the error. So we can have a very simple message as please log in to continue. So it means that the user is not logged in. Do we need to close this? Yes. Then after extracting the value from the user claims, then we can have our user ID. Let's call it user ID equals to claims.user ID. And let's go back to our login so that we will know where this claim is coming from. If you remember, we have in our token, we have the auth generate token. We pass in our user ID, username, and the key here. So that is what we want to extract. And we can use this to fetch our user. To fetch our user, you can do user, and we can have the error. So we use our handler.queries. Queries.get. So you can use this, get user profile by user ID. and this will take in a request.context. If you can see a context that user ID, then this will return the store user profile and in case of error. Yeah. So request.context, then we do a typecast of ints. You can use 32 or 64. Let's use 32. Then we pass in our user ID variable here. And in the case of error, if error does not equal to nil, you can paste this here. You can change in between quotes. You can do user not found. And of course, this should be not found status, like so. And if we can see the user, let's respond with success response dot respond with success. Then we can have writer. So in this case, we have the writer, the code, message, and the data, which is an interface. So writer dot the status code dot status code dot status okay, like so. Then just pass in success, and at the end we need to return the user. We don't even need the context that we declared up here, so let me remove it. 16k, then we can remove this. Alright, one more thing to do, and we can test this user profile. So the next thing to do is to write our user profile route. So I'll go to my route, user route here, and we can write here user mux dot undo. Then this is going to be a get request, and we can call it, let's call it user profile, like so. And we can have our middleware here, so we need to protect this route dot auth middleware. Then we can have our http dot handler func. Then we can have handler dot get what do we call it, user profile. Yeah, I know it's a bit long, but let me just explain. So if you have a plain function, like in the case of a login user handler, this guy here, and create user handler, so you want to use undo func, so you want to use undo func. So you just like a cheat code that I use to remember all this. But if you have an HTTP handler being returned, we are passing the middleware here, so you want to use the undo. So because we are wrapping this function, this handler user profile inside an handler func and inside the auth middleware, so we need to use the undo. So again, if you have a plain function, you want to use undo func, and if you have an HTTP handler as the return type, you want to use it in this format. Otherwise, you can use frameworks like Chi and Jane, if you know that you don't want to write this long format. Anyways, let's continue with what we have. So I'll save all and open my terminal. Then we can do go run may not go. Then we have a DB connected and a server started on port 8081. So let's open our REST client. I think it's called client. We have these users login, but let's log in first. In our last lesson, we created this login endpoint, so we can have our REST run. So we have our token here. So I'll copy the token and I'll come here. So let's remove this. you can paste like so. So what is our user profile endpoint? Let's confirm that. I'll go to my user route. So we said user.profile and we have a prefix. So it's going to be users.user.profile. That does not make sense. So let's remove this. So it's going to be users.profile. That makes sense. Then we can restart the server. And in the next class, we'll look at how we can do an automatic restart, just like nodemon for Node.js. So I'll run this. So this is going to be users then / profile. Let's go back to our REST client. So we can remove this login. And we can save, then we can use our REST run. So we got user not found. Let's see what could be the issue. Let's copy this and let's head over to dwt.io. So I'll paste this here. We have the test user 5. Test user. So what could be the issue? Let's go back to our profile endpoint. I'll close this. So let's go into the definition. What do we have here? Context, user ID 32, profile. So we have kill rows, user ID. So let's go back here. Can we log this? Print ln and print user ID. So let's start the server. Then we go back to our client. Then do REST run. Not found. Let's see. And we got 5 here. ID 5. Let's go to our DB UI. And we can open this. Let's do a new query. Let's close this. Then we can do select star from users. Then we can save this. And we have the test user here. Yep, mail. So definitely we have our user inside the DB. So let's quit and just close this. We can close this too. Let's go back to our user handler. So what could be wrong here? So since this is not working, let's check our queries. I'll go to the migration. Let's go to the migration table. Migrations. We can go to schema. And let's go to our queries. Get user. So we have a get user 1. And which one are we using? It's called get user. Alright, so let's go back to queries dot get user. Call it get user. Okay, this is the one we are meant to use. So let's give this a well. And we can go to our REST client, the REST run, and we got the user. So you want to be careful. You want to use the right method, not the get user profile, but the get user. And we got data, the ID 5, username. But if I tamper this token, let's see what we will get. Come here, I'll remove the 8. Now save. And also do the restaurant again. So we got invalid token. Right. It means our code works. So this brings us to the end of this lesson. In the next lesson, we'll look at how we can use a makefile to run our program, to build, to format, and so on and so forth. We'll also look at how we can use an automatic restarter, just like NodeMon for Node.js, in our program. If you enjoyed this video, please do well to leave a like and subscribe to this channel, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.